Morning, lads. Just wanted to have a quick chat around transition, essentially, and just talk a bit to how we're going to essentially make sure we always have pockets of opportunities for overloads on the pitch, and what we look like, not just when we kind of kick off or when our sort of base structure, but what we look like when we're pushing the opposition back and attacking. Most clubs will have, or most teams, or I'd say all teams will have both a defensive and a more attacking shape. At least they'll have a mentality or certain things. At the most basic level, this will just be that mentality of, go wide when you're attacking, be compact when you're defending, that kind of thing, right? So we're going to talk about what we do as a team in attack as well as defense. Now, I'll probably use a little bit of jargon here and just making assumptions around your football knowledge just based on the fact that you're all kick-ass footballers. But if there's anything that I say that doesn't make sense or you want to discuss something more, just come chat with me. Cool. So yeah, like I said last week and this week as well, we're starting the 4-3-3. I think this is a really good base because it just covers the whole pitch, make sure you don't have too much in the way of areas that are lacking, but also you have options. You can kind of see those triangles everywhere. Now, when we're in attacking opportunities, I want to really make sure and build on what we did last week, which was using that back line to move the ball and then break that first line of the opposition's press or defense. So what we're going to do and how we're going to essentially get ourselves into scenarios where we do have that numerical advantage further up the pitch is we're going to monopolize essentially the midfield, but we're going to do that by bringing in one of our fullbacks and going into that back three formation or back three shape that I've been talking about with quite a few of you. So just to sort of map, so say for example, in this scenario, we've started with the ball at right back, and I want to be going to our fullbacks, if not at defensive mid, when we sort of win possession, unless we've kind of got that clear opportunity up front. And say, for example, it comes across like we did last week, maybe goes to the DM, maybe comes down to the centre back, and then goes across to the left back, and this is where we find our space where we can play out, where this person has more than 2 seconds on the ball, can look up, maybe drive with the ball, maybe look for a pass in the midfield and continue on. Now, what happens in this scenario is that the opposite fullback, usually where the sort of play might have started, is now essentially, if they don't make a lung busting run right up the wing, they're kind of out of play and they don't have the opportunity to be part of that attacking play. So what I want them to do in this scenario is to come into midfield and essentially become a bit of a double pivot with that defensive mid. So the defensive mid will move across and that fullback will actually come in there, tuck in and be a bit of a defensive midfielder themselves. What this means once the ball kind of progresses up through midfield and we can actually play here is that these three remaining defenders will become those three centre backs. Yeah. Now, I want to make sure that we're all comfortable doing this. And I think the best analogy or the best kind of mentality to look at is just that distance between you. Yeah. We'll be having a bit more of a gap on the side, or we'll be quite clear through here. Look for the attackers as well and just make sure that you're able to make those defensive or those recovery runs if, say, for example, ball goes out here. We'll talk about that in a sec. The important thing to note here is that we're always trying to beat these two first attackers or these two first pressing, as well as baiting them. Yeah. So if, say, for example, they're back here, this doesn't work. We can't just go, cool, yep, we've made this really nice pass through the back line. Oh, now I'm going to go up and join. Because realistically, there's no use here. We're now just making our midfielders beat two lines of defense. We need to make sure that these two attackers press before this makes sense. And that's because we'll have that numerical advantage. We should have 4 versus 2 or even 3 if they do have a third attacker. But that's when the defensive mid or even the goalkeeper can come into play, yeah? Cool, and that's about it for that. So this is kind of what we'll end up doing once we've done that little transition piece within our back line. And the reason we're doing this is because we can then have a bit more solidity in the midfield. We'll then have a 2 double pivot. You can kind of get exposed if there's just 1 here. And if there's 2, it means we can slow down the game when the opposition do turn the play over. But more importantly, we can push our centre mids, who I've been saying are sort of number 8s, make them more into that number 10 role when we're in attack. They always have to come back and be number 8s when we're defending, but in attack, they can come up quite a bit more advanced, be more that number 10 attacking midfielder or even inside forwards when we get into that final third. There's going to be opportunities through the back line when we do this, because we're not going to see many teams that are going to have a back five, and we're not going to see teams that stray away from the 4-4-2 or the 4-3-3 in this comp. And so therefore we should always be able to sort of find those half spaces for these inside forwards as well as the strikers and wingers if the wingers stay wide. That's really important that our wingers always stay high and wide and always pull that play. Obviously, when we're in here, wingers making a cross or something, you then come in, but it's very much in that final third of play. Otherwise, we're making sure we're coming into midfield and looking for those gaps to exploit, looking for those 2v1s versus the defender. You also see we should dominate midfield because we've got a very nice box midfield here, which means we've always got options. There's so many triangle combinations, and we should be able to outplay the opposition and get that opportunity to go forward. So essentially, when you're in midfield here, you feel that press, play rondo until the opposition are tired or fucking pissed off, they're not getting the ball, and then you can turn and look for one of those balls out wide or to our striker. Striker needs to stay high and make sure they're on the shoulder of the last defender and really pull that defensive line so we can create the space here in the midfield for these two to be creative and look for those passes or take shots. I think that's about it. Oh yeah, quickly we'll talk to when this defender, when the center back, center mid, defensive center mid, or that fullback comes back into that space, because we need to acknowledge that this is the danger zone. Essentially, the ball comes out here, for example. We're all going to go across as a unit. Remember, those centre backs are managing the space in between them, because that's the gaps where the opposition can exploit. So say, for example, the ball comes out here, here's our opposition. That centre back's going to come out and be a right back again, yeah? And the other centre back's going to come across. So we know that there's probably going to be a gap here because our left back's up here. But once the ball comes out here, we know that defensive mid's there. We know where centre mids come in. We need to make sure that they're coming in. So then this left back can then come back and maybe look to see if there was a winger waiting there, waving for the ball, which they will be frantically. And we'll make sure we're understanding whether or not an opposition has a really fucking showstopper pass from a midfielder and a speedy as fuck winger who actually can come out and exploit this. But realistically, playing that ball through our midfield and back line isn't going to happen very often. And a high ball from here to a fast winger, yeah, will happen every now and then. We will get caught out sometimes, but it won't happen enough to essentially outweigh the benefits that we're going to have from those overloads in midfield and up front. Cool. That's about it. That's kind of the plan in transition. Feel free to give me a message or something if you want to chat about it. We'll talk a bit about it today as well before we jump into the pitch. But yeah, eat some fruit, get ready, do some stretches. Catch you guys later.